New data from LinkedIn and Headspace find that an increasing number of American workers are experiencing what is referred to as the Sunday scaries. Sunday scaries just means you experience anxiety when you're thinking about the work week that's about to start, right? So Sunday night, start thinking about the work week, you start getting crippled with anxiety, and more Americans are experiencing that. So let's get to the details. LinkedIn surveyed 2,000 US workers and found that 75% of them experienced the Sunday scaries, okay? Among those who face the Sunday scaries, 74% say their feelings have increased because of current economic uncertainty. 37% say they have worsened because they are more overwhelmed at work than ever before, and 31% blame their fear of a potential recession. There are currently 1.9 job openings for every unemployed American though, so if you're concerned about being jobless, you probably shouldn't be, at least not in this moment. But I'm actually really curious what you think, Cenk, because it's a little different for you because you started this company, you're the head of this company, but try to take your mind back to when you were practicing law, right? Yeah. And you hated that job. So do you remember how you felt on Sundays?
Yeah, of course. Look, more so than even when I was working at a big law firm or anywhere else, I remember when I was a student. And so I don't know that that's, it's the same phenomenon. Things are worse these days for a number of factors we can get into. But yeah, I mean, the responsibility piling up, you got to hand in the homework, and that doesn't feel good. My favorite time in the world is Saturday morning. But Sunday night is when you start to feel like something compressing your chest.
Yes, the compressing of the chest, yes. Yes, okay, so let's get to some other details here because others cite that they're burnt out, right? So LinkedIn career expert Andrew McCaskill recommends workers take the beginning of the week experiences into their own hands. Oh, how do you do that? By organizing their Monday schedules in advance. Sounds awful. You know what? Here's the solution. How about you plan for work on Sunday? Get started early, everybody.
Don't.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
The thing I hated the most was the homework that I had to do on Sunday night.
It's amazing. Okay, Andrew McCaskill, who's a LinkedIn career expert, says, take breaks. Have that lunch with that person at work that you really enjoy speaking to. But Andrew, do you not understand that some people literally can't take a lunch break? That's the thing with this advice, the career expert who doesn't understand what it's like to have a career in America these days, right? Where it's impossible for a lot of people to step away from the desk and take a legit lunch break. Who does that? Does anyone actually do that anymore?
Yeah, they do, but you have to be in the sweet spot, okay? So there are people who have 9-to-5 jobs that are brutal, and they don't have time to plan, well, I'm going on a mini vacation on Monday with my colleagues. No, dude, you got to go back to flipping burgers or answering calls nonstop.
Yep.
And you're constantly being timed on how quickly you answer calls or move the assembly line. Ain't nobody got time for these fancy lunches you're talking about, right?
Yep.
And then on the other end, there are some executives that work their asses off, right? And or in our situation, gathering up, producing this show is a beast, right? Yep. And there's some folks like that. But yes, there's some folks in middle management that got time for lunches with their friends.
And that's who he's speaking to, and he doesn't even realize it, right? The people who are most likely to experience the Sunday scaries are not middle managers. Although I'm not trying to minimize what middle management goes through. I'm sure they work really hard. But look, you're entitled to feel how you feel, but you also have a lot of agency in managing your Monday experience too.
Do you?
Yeah, does everyone? Do they? Okay, now let's get to the survey that was done by Headspace, which is a meditation app. I've used it myself, people love it. It annoyed the crap out of me, but nonetheless, here's what they found, okay? Meditation app Headspace recently found that nearly 30% of their users have a hard time sleeping nearly 4 nights per week out of fear of losing their job. So that statement resonated with me until the very end, right? Because guys, once the weekend hits, I sleep like a baby. Deep sleep, deep sleep, right? Also, on Sunday, I slept until 8:30. That never happens, okay? Sunday night, have a hard time falling asleep. I'm up at 3. There's no going back to sleep once I'm up at 3. It's over. I've been up since 3 in the morning. Why?
Okay, I believe that's called the Sunday scaries. All right, so guys, they accidentally got to another giant issue there. I say accidentally because they're telling you to, do rosé all day on Monday with your coworkers, but then they say, oh, by the way, 30% are scared to death of being fired on Monday, right? No, ain't nobody doing rosé all day when you're worried about getting fired, right?
Yeah.
And so that's not our situation here, but it is definitely the situation for tons and tons of people.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of it, guys. So I don't have great solutions, but I know what's causing the problem being worse. It's always existed, as we talked about earlier, but it does feel worse, and that's why you're seeing these studies now showing numbers that are worse than they used to be. It's because we live under corporate rule. And so part of what corporations do is they squeeze their employees for every nickel, right? And so one of the ways that you squeeze them is lower wages. Another way to squeeze them is no health care, but you go get Medicaid on your own, or you get Obamacare on your own, okay? Which, by the way, adds more stress. But the other way they squeeze the employees is get as much work as possible out of them, right? And put impossible schedules onto them, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the pressure people are feeling. I'm about to head back into an impossible schedule on a low wage, and I might be fired for the smallest transgression, right? So that's why you're getting these amped up numbers.
I think you're 100% right about that. Now back to me. I think the problem with me is that I've learned to do a decent job in compartmentalizing my life, right? Where on the weekends, I really do give myself a break from the news because I just need it, right? But then anticipating jumping back into the dumpster fire that is American politics, I think is what keeps me up, right? So let me give you this next graphic. Research has shown a correlation between economic uncertainty and stress, so this concept isn't necessarily new. However, what is unique in today's current environment is the compound effect of multiple global crises coming to a head at once: the global pandemic, political unrest, rising inflation, and economic instability, to name a few. And that's according to Dr. Dana Udall, who's a chief clinical officer over at Headspace Health. Now, the advice from Dr. Udall is, you know what, just unplug from the news and you'll be all right. But what if the news is your career and there is no unplugging from it, you know?
Yeah, I hear you on that, but I have a different solution. So this happens to my mom, it happens to a lot of you guys. So my parents are worried to death about going back to Turkey because there's could be political unrest. There's an election coming up. Erdogan's a bad guy. He's the current president in charge. He's likely to lose the election. We don't know what's gonna happen. Okay, but I'm like, but they're worried about 2 years before the election. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, yeah, the situation in Turkey politically is terrible, but it's not like they're gonna bust into your house and take you away. It's got nothing to do with you. And every time they go back to Turkey, they're like, oh my God, it was perfectly okay. You know, we had all the gyros we needed and we met with friends and no one, I'm like, yeah, of course. So my point is, the news is bad, leave that to us, okay? Let us deal with the Sunday scaries. But only worry about the things that are gonna affect you. There's nothing you could do about whether China had a lab leak in Wuhan. There's nothing you can do about it, right?
Yeah,
there's
that's
nothing
true.
you can do about Russia invading Ukraine.
God, it's so true, Cenk. You're so right. You know, this is the hardest thing to remember, that you should focus on what you can control.
Yes, definitely.
Why is it so hard to remember that?
It is, but it's hard for everybody, right? So you got plenty of problems at work. I know, most of you do, right? I've seen how bad it is out there, and then the studies show it. So don't worry about things that you can't control. Otherwise, you'll lose your mind. One super last thing, guys. We talked about in the context of Instagram, et cetera, in a different story a couple of days ago. But we're driving each other nuts too by seeing everything at once. In the old days, rich people didn't have it that good, still today, right? Because they compare themselves to people in their neighborhood and they're all rich, right? And so they get they're never satisfied. Oh, but I'm not as rich as Bob, right? But poor folks in the old days lived in the one village. I know my parents used to, right? But everybody was poor, and so, or almost everybody was poor, and so they didn't feel as bad, right? Because they saw everybody in their neighborhood was in a similar situation. Now we're all seeing the super rich and the people on the yachts, etc., right? And then we're all seeing the wars and the police abuse and all of that. But all of that is not happening to you. Okay, that's just stuff you're seeing. So don't get envious of the lifestyle you're not living, because it'll drive you nuts. Even if you're super rich, it still drives you nuts, right? And don't get down. Like when I see Syrian refugees, it breaks my heart. I mean, you fill in the blank for any refugees, anybody, the earthquake in Turkey, the Ukrainians that are suffering because of the invasion, etc. But I do my best in trying to get attention to those issues. I do my best in presenting the news about it. And then afterwards I hug my kids and I think, thank God that we're not suffering in the same situation. You could flip it on its head. Say, I love those people and I want to help those people, but thank God I'm in the situation I'm in and not in their situation. Both things are okay, and that makes you feel better, and it should. You should appreciate what you have.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.